Good. So with Antoine Lutz, Research Director in CERM in Lyon, and myself, we are very happy to make this presentation today about meditation, which is here presented as a mental training approach to promote healthy aging and to prevent neurodegenerative disease, and we will introduce the meditating model. Our hypothesis in this model is that both mindfulness meditation and loving kindness and compassion meditation, those two terms will be defined just after, are important in the aging population as they could constitute a protective lifestyle, not only on Alzheimer's disease, but also more generally on cognition, mental health, and well-being in aging. The positive impact of those two types of meditation is expected to promote attention control, metacognitive processes, and prosocial capacities. And we expect this process to have both a positive impact, upregulation on favorable, beneficial, and positive factors, but also a negative impact, a down-regulative impact on adverse, detrimental, and negative factors. Those two processes would together have a positive impact on aging. Antoine?
So there are here meditation can be understood as a family of complex emotional and attentional training regime, which can be developed for various purposes, including the cultivation of well-being and emotional balance. Over the last 3 decades, mindfulness-based meditation has been introduced in the West and in the clinics, and it is now used in scientific research. So here, mindfulness can refer to this capacity to develop a vigilant awareness of one's thoughts, emotion, motivation, and to develop a capacity to flexibly regulate attention and emotions. And it's particularly important in the context of aging. So loving kindness and compassion meditation has been more recently introduced also in secular program in clinics, and it's essentially a strong focuses on the heart, the capacity to cultivate appreciation, benevolence, self-acceptation, care for oneself and others. And it's particularly important in aging when to create meaning and to appreciate more the process of aging as a natural process. Again?
Yeah. The physiopathological processes of Alzheimer's disease are not completely understood for now, so we know that some of the pathological mechanisms involve amyloid deposition and tau deposition, for example, but probably as well other processes. But their links, their interactions, and the causal element or elements are not fully understood yet. However, we know that those pathological processes are influenced both by genetic and by environmental risk factors, including modifiable risk factors, such that 1/3 of AD cases could be due to modifiable risk factors. And this is a good hope and positive knowledge to have a significant impact on reducing AD cases. Amongst the main risk factors that have been identified, you can see here there is low education, smoking, physical inactivity, depression, midlife hypertension, diabetes, and midlife obesity. And if we reduce those risk factors by 10 or 25%, here we are able to considerably reduce the number of AD cases. This is if we look throughout the life. If we look in the different life period, you can see here in early life, midlife, and if we concentrate in the elderly population, then you can see that the main risk factors are smoking, depression, physical inactivity, social isolation, and diabetes. Based on this knowledge, there have been a few large-scale, multi-domain, long-term, non-pharmacological interventions that have been launched. These are the main ongoing such interventions. And if so they are all, as you can see, multi-domain and relatively long-term. If we look at here the finger study, it combines intervention based on diet, nutritional counseling, so physical activity, but also cognitive training, and finally management of metabolic and vascular risk factors. So you can see that in these non-pharmacological interventions, the main risk factors are almost all targeted relatively directly. So cognitive training, so it's not for low education, but for active cognitive activity. Smoking, physical inactivity, hypertension, and cardiovascular risk factors. However, the more psychoaffective risk factors, including depression, but also stress, anxiety, sleep difficulties, etc., are not directly targeted, and they are not considered in these non-pharmacological interventions, while these factors have been identified as main risk factors, especially in the elderly population. For example, depression has been shown to be a risk factor in AD. You can see here the increased probability of developing Alzheimer's disease as we increase the number of depressive factors. And also, you can see that the slope of cognitive decline is steeper in those with higher depressive symptoms. Similarly, neuroticism, which is a tendency to experience negative emotion, has been associated with increased risk for Alzheimer's disease. This is a recent study published by Nathalie Marchand and collaborator in Alzheimer's and Dementia this year, and it showed that repetitive negative thinking, which is also called as perseverative cognition, and it is a behaviorally measurable process that encompasses both future, which corresponds to worry, but also past, which corresponds to rumination, directed thoughts. And this repetitive negative thinking has been shown to be associated both to amyloid deposition, so increased amyloid deposition with increased repetitive negative thinking, in 2 independent studies using 2 different PET markers, but also to increase tau deposition in the entorhinal cortex. So this is showing that repetitive negative thinking is associated with the 2 main proteinopathy of Alzheimer's disease, and also in the same study they show an association with cognitive decline. Anxiety has also been shown to be a risk factor for Alzheimer's disease. You can see here higher cumulative incidence of dementia in those with higher level of anxiety. And finally, stress is known to have a negative impact on the hippocampus through notably stress hormones such as cortisol. And the hippocampus is one of the brain structure that is the most sensitive to Alzheimer's disease. Finally, there is a negative loop linking sleep to amyloid deposition and amyloid deposition to sleep. So higher level of amyloid deposition is associated and might lead to reduced quality of sleep, and in turn, lower quality of sleep is thought to be and has been shown to be associated with increased level of amyloid deposition. So there is really this more global idea that the circadian clock is important in relation with mood, memory, and sleep for neurodegeneration and aging. Antoine.
So why meditation? Next. Over the last maybe 3 decades, the meditation has been used in the clinics, and over the last 2 decades, we have now brain imaging data, various measures to study meditation. And the most studied capacity is cognition. So now there are several meta-analyses showing that meditation training, mindfulness training, can have a positive effect on attention and memory. Next. And this training, mental training, is associated to neuroplastic changes in brain structure and function, in particular frontal and limbic area. Next. And so you can see in particular region in the prefrontal cortex, anterior cingulate, the insula, and a regulation of region important for emotion regulation, such as amygdala. Next. So because meditation downregulates affective emotions such as stress or anxiety, it has an impact on biomarker of stress, immune and inflammatory measure of stress, and also measure of aging, in particular telomere and telomerase activity, which are next, which are a marker of cellular aging, which have been shown to in several studies to be this rate of cellular aging is reduced following an intensive retreat of meditation. Next. In general, meditation has a positive impact on well-being and regulation in stress, depression, anxiety, feeling of loneliness, and also have a positive impact on the body through training of relaxation and regulation of stress. So it has an impact on cardiovascular risk factor. Next. So here you can, it's a summary of the talk so far. You can see that there are various factors that are impacting well-being on mental aging, on AD and AD. In effect on depression, so depression, sleep problem, cognitive decline, negative emotion, and stress, anxiety are all affected by aging. And as we just reviewed, meditation, as in the young adult at least, has the capacity to affect these various processes. So our general hypothesis is that by developing an intervention that can target these various processes, we can then directly impact and change aging and cultivate an healthy aging. Next.
So we have conducted a pilot study with notably the collaboration of Antoine, but also other co-authors you can see here, where we studied 6 elderly expert meditators that we compared to a group of controls which have the same age as a mean of 67 elderly controls, non-meditators. And we also include in this study a larger sample of 186 healthy participants who are from 20 to 85 years old, for the sake of highlighting the effect of age on our brain measures of interest. You can see here that the group of 6 elderly meditation experts have the same age as mean. They have a higher level of education, so education is controlled in all analyses, and there is no difference in the proportion of males and females and MMSE. You can see here that one line represents one meditation expert. Our 6 expert meditators have have more than 20 years of practice, more than 20,000 hours of practice, which a significant proportion has been done in retreat. And here we were interested in structural MRI to assess brain volume and FDG PET to assess glucose consumption, and I will present to you the results with brain consumption. Here you can see on the top line the effect of age in our larger sample of people aged 20 to 87. In red you have the regions that showed the greater glucose metabolism decline when assessing the effect of age. In the middle line you have the subtraction between the images of the expert and the older controls, with regions showing higher metabolism in expert meditators in yellow. And when applying a statistical threshold, this is in the bottom line, you have the regions that survive the statistical threshold, and you can see that we have higher glucose metabolism in the ventral, mid, prefrontal and anterior cingulate cortex, the posterior cingulate cortex, and the anterior insula. These regions are particularly sensitive to aging, and this suggests that there is a better preservation of brain regions from age effects. You can see here the control group, 1 point representing the glucose metabolism value in one region of interest in the controls, and here in the expert meditators, And you can see here as well the correlation line with age in the whole sample and where the expert meditators stand in this line. So better preservation of brain regions from glucose metabolism decline with age. There were small differences as well in cognition, and you can see here a small difference in memory performance that were slightly higher in our expert meditators, and some differences in other lifestyles such as mental activity in young age, and also duration, better sleep quality. And our differences, the differences we identified in the brain of our expert meditators remained when further controlling for those differences in lifestyle or sleep quality. There have been several others evidence in aging population, either from elderly expert meditators or from elderly that have been proposed meditation program, and altogether results are encouraging. They suggest a positive effect of meditation programs on attention, memory, flexibility. They show that meditation improves depression, anxiety, and sleep, increase brain perfusion, and have protective effect on age-related decrease in cortical thickness, and increase as well hippocampal and prefrontal volume and telomerase activity. However, there are few studies. Most often they have low to moderate quality. Effects, if present, are usually low, and studies include heterogeneous meditation practices. Sample size tend to be low. The duration of intervention is usually very short, like 2 months. And most often, studies are not randomized controlled clinical trial. There is also a need to investigate the mechanisms.
So let's focus now more on the mechanism of action of meditation on aging. So most of the work, as Gael summarized, has been focused on mindfulness meditation in relation to aging. So that's just one example of a proposal that tried to explain why meditation could be useful for healthy aging. And the general idea is that by training attention and metacognitive capacities, you are then developing and reinforcing attention and working memory and memory, which then reinforce neural reserve. And also by developing a regulation of emotions, particularly negative emotion, you're going to downregulate and regulate the autonomic nervous system, the HP axis, the immune system, which then are going to be indirectly impacting the brain and inflammation, and so also indirectly preserving neural reserve. So that's just one example in the field. And next. The novelty of our model is there's 2 main points. The first one is that we really advocate to integrate both mindfulness meditation that are really developing the mind, attention, and presence, and also heart quality, loving kindness and compassion to promote healthy aging. That's the first message and hypothesis. And the second one is that we argue that it will be important to study meditation at multiple timescales, spanning across several years, to really be able to measure the time course of change induced by meditation. So we believe that there are probably different timescales of changes. When you look at the psychological domain, the neural domain of biological marker, and it will be very important to track down the time course of these changes. Next. So very briefly, why we think it's important to include loving kindness and compassion meditation. So it is much more recent that the scientists has been interested in this practice. So like mindfulness, it has a positive income on mood disorder, anxiety and depression, even if the data are not there are not as many studies yet. Next. Interestingly, like mindfulness meditation, loving kindness meditation can downregulate social stress. But when you try to compare these two techniques, you realize that they don't they probably are using different mechanisms, and as recently found in a study, and suggesting that there could be a complementary. Next. So as I said, loving kindness is really emphasizing heart quality, so positive emotions and cultivating purpose in life, as it has been found. And it's important in particular in aging to compensate for social isolation. Next. There are no evidence that loving kindness meditation is targeting different cognitive processes and is mediated by different cognitive and neural mechanisms compared to mindfulness meditation. Next. And that's been the strongest evidence is from a large clinical trial when they compare within the same individual mindfulness meditation or attention training in yellow in the figure from compassion meditation training in red here. And so when you train a participant for 3 months in each, and you look for changes in their, in this case, cortical thickness, you can see that the neuroplastic changes induced by these 2 different techniques are impacting different brain circuitry. As expected, the attention and interoceptive training are focusing more on attention-related region and prefrontal cortex, while affect training is developing mostly the cingulate cortex and in particular the insula. Next. So let me briefly present the model. So maybe let me give you an example. As Gael said before, the repetitive negative thinking is a key predictor for depression. So let's imagine that you're a senior person which are ruminating about feeling lonely, that life is not really meaningful. These 2 techniques will provide 2 different strategies to cope with these repetitive thinkings. With mindfulness meditation, you're going to train to first recenter attention, so to in particular to go from the mind to the body. So you're going to start to reconnect it with your bodily sensation, and by doing so, you can regulate where your mind is going, and develop a capacity to let go of the thoughts and just to observe the thought as a thought without being taken away by the thoughts. Instead, when you cultivate loving kindness compassion meditation, you try to re-change the content of the thoughts. You reappraise the thoughts to give it a positive meaning. For instance, you're going to train yourself to orient your attention toward the other, to be less self-centered, or you're going to try to give a positive meaning to the experience through acceptation, understanding that it's part of the human condition, and so on. So we believe that we summarize that on this graph by saying that both techniques are expect to train and strengthen attention regulation and monitoring. And mindfulness meditation in particular develop metacognitive skills to downregulate automatic negative schema, so rumination, avoidance pattern, and so on, while loving kindness meditation are going to develop more strengthened motivational process, caring systems, which are more cultivate to positive emotions. And that's then strengthening positive emotions like caring and altruistic behaviors. Next.
So, as we said before, before we were developing this part of the graphs, and now just a few words about the lower part of the graph, which is the factors that would be either upregulated or downregulated. So, as we have said, we expect mindfulness and loving kindness meditation to have both upregulating impact on favorable, beneficial, positive factors, such as cognitive reserve, brain reserve. It's something that is expected to increase cognitive stimulation or activity, increase social interactions, effects such as well-being, happiness, and also telomerase activity, telomerase length, so positive impact on those factors, and also down-regulate the adverse, detrimental, and negative factors, such as we have discussed, cardiovascular risk factors, depression, sleep disturbances, stress, anxiety, cognitive decline, dementia, and frailty, disability. Those factors, being the positive or the negative factors, are expected to interact and promote each other's, such as they all together have a increased effect, increased benefit effect on aging. We would like to tell you about this project, which is a European project called Silver Santé Study, which aim at investigating the impact of meditation training on mental health and well-being in the aging population. And as you will see, is also designed to allow us to test this model and hypothesis. As I said, it's a European project where we are interested in both the effect of meditation, but also more generally on several lifestyle factors, on cognition, well-being, and biological markers of aging, but also biomarkers of Alzheimer's disease. And we're interested in the mechanisms of action with special emphasis on attentional and emotional factors. We have experts throughout Europe to lead this project. So Antoine Lutz, who is present now for leading the meditation aspects of the project. Julie Gonneau, who is postdoc here in Caen, to lead the lifestyle aspects together with Mianka With in Germany. Fabienne Colette to lead the attentional aspects, and Olga Klimicki in Geneva, the emotional aspects of the project. Nathalie Marchand in UK is leading cognition and well-being associated with aging and the impact of meditation on that. And with my team, we are leading the biological marker aspects. So it's a very large project with two randomized clinical trials. And I will develop a little bit more the AgeWell project, which includes 137 healthy seniors who have been explored with cognitive tests, questionnaires of lifestyle and sleep quality, also other assessment of sleep, but also neuroimaging markers, including amyloid, FDG, tau, amyloid, FDG, structural MRI, functional MRI, and we also have some biological samples to study different aspects related with aging, AD, and emotions, etc., such as telomerase activity that have been mentioned before. After being assessed, people are randomized in 3 groups, either the group that will meditate, the group that will learn English as an active control group for the meditation group, and the third group, which is the passive control. The intervention lasts for 18 months. There is an intermediate measure for behavioral tests at 9 months, and then all examinations are repeated at the end of the 18-month intervention. We also have included 30 expert meditators that have the same age as the healthy seniors and have the same examinations. Maybe Antoine, you can describe the meditation, and so just to say that the common basis for both meditation and English interventions are that they last for 18 months, as I already said, with once a week a 2-hour group practice with expert instructors, and for being for meditation or English every day they are instructed to practice by their own for 20 minutes. And they have a tablet for as a support. And they also have, in both situations, both meditation and English, they have a 1 entire day of intensive practice. Antoine?
Yeah. So we, our program of meditation is novel because most of the previous intervention is based on 8 weeks. And so we took an intervention called the MBCIS, Mindfulness-Based Cognitive Approach for Senior, which was giving one meditation class every month for 8 months. and we extend the program into a 9-month module when there were 1 session a week. And then we add 9 months of a program when we strengthened instead loving kindness and compassion. And that was based on a different secular program, like the compassionate comprehensive therapy or the integrated and multimodal psychotherapy approach developed by Professor Gilbert and adapted in Caen by Paul Delamere. So in a way that our program respects the structure of existing short intervention of meditation, but it is extended. And also there is now a very strong focuses on the loving kindness and compassion that is arrived after the first 9 months of meditation. And that's in line with the previous, the traditional way to teach compassion. So first mindfulness meditation and then compassion. And that's all in line with the study I've just shown, the resource project, when they also train first mindfulness and then compassion. Okay.
Yeah, so these are the few publications related to Silver Santé study. So Silver Santé study is the public name for meditating. So it's the same European project, and you can find those publications. It's still ongoing. We don't have access yet to the follow-up data, but the first study, SCD Well, on SCD patients has already been concluded, and the first results are on the process of being published, and we will soon start working on the longitudinal data of the effect of the intervention in the second study, Well, that we just presented. So we have some publications related to the theory of why meditation could promote mental health and well-being in aging, some of which has been presented today. The pilot study we have presented, and the protocols being for the SCD Well part of the study, and also the Well randomized controlled trial and expert study has been published as protocols. And theoretical model of the impact of meditation on healthy aging. These are all our footings or other supports, and would like to thank a lot the entire meditating groups that has been a lot involved in all what has been presented today. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Gael and Antoine. This was excellent, and I think this interactive format was worked out really well. So please go ahead and ask questions. Just unmute your camera or use the chat function. So any questions? Do you want to unshare your screen, Gael? Otherwise, I see myself all the time.
Ah, okay.
So this is probably one of the few studies I would like to be a subject myself in your study. This is really great. So what do you think is this, what role is this emotional component, playing in inducing cognitive effects? Is this really a key mediating factor?
So maybe, Antoine, we can answer from two different perspectives. I think there is some clear evidence for an impact on physical health in general, on the brain in particular, of several emotional processes, being through hormonal processes or regulation of let's say emotional brain interactions. So this is one of the factor, one of the mechanisms that could explain the positive impact of emotion regulation on the brain, in particular on health in general. Yeah, I think as well that there is so depression, anxiety are maybe acting through this process, but there is also, as we said, something that is more upregulating positive effects. And I think that acting positively on positive emotions, such as those that are also promoted by social interactions, etc., also have a positive impact on health in general and on the brain in particular. So yeah, I would say that it's both down regulating negative impact of, for example, some negative hormonal effects, and upregulating positive impact on some positive emotions or well-being in general.
Okay.
Antoine, do you want to?
Yeah, well, it's more and more there is an understanding that attention is not a cold process. It's actually very connected to emotions, to motivations, and so it's not necessarily there are always some affective component in everything we do, and so in that sense, what is important in meditation is that you are you're developing. It's really focusing on as Gael say on down regulating stressful situations or anxiety and depression, and learning the person to get more mental space, and so by doing so you are both training attention, because you're using your attention to controlling where your mind is going, and then you also down regulate an emotion, either by a negative one, or you train yourself to cultivate more positive bias. And I think as Gael just said, I really believe that the cultivation of positive affect is important, because it has to do with meanings also, and there are the work for instance on well-being of Carol Reef, and what's called eudaimonia, which is a form of long-lasting happiness, really show that it has a protective effect on aging. People who have actually an engagement with life and positive meaning in life, that's really a very strong positive protective factors. And so these techniques are really developed to develop this capacity to really see the positive in every situation in life, including the different period of aging.
Yeah, and it's also feasible to assume that this increased emotional well-being may translate into behavioral changes, such that you seek more social interactions or hobbies or other stimulating activities, which have been previously, and we have heard also within this series several talks on its relationship to promoting reserve and higher aging. Are you tracking these kind of behavioral changes as well in your randomized trial?
Yes. Gael, do you want to say something about the lifestyle?
About the lifestyles that are tracked? Yeah, so we have a full work package on lifestyle where we are especially interested in all aspects of lifestyle, being cognitive activity throughout life, but also professional activities, etc., and diet. So we have questionnaires to monitor diet, physical activity, which is particularly important for us. So sleep could be seen as a lifestyle as well, and we're very interested in sleep that we assess in different manner, being so long night-long computing, but also questionnaires. So we're interested in the self-perception of sleep quality, and what am I forgetting? Yeah.
And I think maybe one point to say also that we're tracking also the partner, so how much the relationship that they have with their partners is changing. So we are also questionnaire about the partners, and especially someone to see if their they perceive a difference, a change in their relationship with the person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Can,
both. Sorry. Yeah. Both from the point of view of the partner, and also we have questions for the partner themselves, and they give us their point of view on how their relationship with the person who has participated to the intervention is evolving or not.
And if I just, Michael, make a point, I think you're totally right that I think this, it's very likely that the general capacity that you train in, say, mindfulness to be connected with what's happening in your life, with your emotions, your resistance, how you cope with obstacles, I think should have a very broad impact on behavior. If you, for instance, that there are mindfulness meditation is used a lot in addiction, for instance. Mm-hmm. Why? Because you're learning to monitor your how you try to translate any kind of stress or negative effect into an addictive behavior, and so you learn to observe that and let go of some of this craving. So I think naturally the people will have are likely to be more tuned with their need, and so it's an important aspect of this line of work is maybe this training in meditation in general could be coupled with other form of training for aging. And so it's possible that an important question for the field in the future is a synergetic effect. When you couple, say, a practice on diet and with the practice of mindfulness, it's likely that the synergy would be very useful.
Thank you. There's actually one other question concerning the control group you had. So the question is, why did you choose learning English rather than cognitive training as your as a control group?
Yep, so there are several reasons for that. First, it's an 18-month intervention, so it's quite long and we need to keep people motivated. And it is easier if they have a goal, which is in the end to learn English instead of making an action which is more generally cognitive training, which is less meaningful to them, that might be less meaningful to them. Second, we did a short questionnaire to elderly people in the region and asking them what they would prefer to do, if they would prefer to do English, Spanish, dance or singing, etc. And English was very popular. And finally, it was also easy for us to imagine interventions that could be really matched for several aspects of the structure of the intervention. So having, for example, one group session per week, 2 hours with an expert trainer, and then having to have them to make some exercise on the tablet every day, 20 minutes. So this kind of practice is easy to imagine and to match between meditation and English. And for example, the full day of practice. So for meditation, it's quite usual in meditation intervention that you have this kind of full day practice for like a meditation retreat. For English, they go on a travel for 1 day in small islands close to here where people speak English, and they have small games, etc., to do in English, etc. So I think the idea is really to make it fun. They are not in school anymore. They are. And even if first they were quite frightened with English lessons because this reminds them a bit of school, finally it was done in a way that was like more entertaining and like adapted to the population. So I think it was altogether for all these reasons. And we know that like we were as such interested in how this intervention will impact on aging and the brain. And we know that bilingualism, but also the fact to learn a new language might have a positive impact on the brain and on aging and on brain reserve and cognitive reserve. So we thought it's a good, like expected to be positive, active control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because for the therapeutic rationale or for the patient, I mean the participant could really be convinced that it's beneficial for them to be in the English group because of what Gael just said. So. that was another reason.
Okay. Anybody else? No. I have actually another question. So concerning the scalability of your intervention, so if it works out, what do you think? To what is sufficient in order to evoke a positive response, so that such meditation practices could be adapted at a larger scale by people? I mean, you have obviously very expert focused and really comprehensive training implemented just to demonstrate that, to increase your statistical validity in order to, or power in order to detect an effect. But, it's maybe not so likely that, people will undergo such an intense training, at a larger scale. So what do you think is sufficient?
This is a very good question, and I think, Antoine, you will have a lot to say, so I will be brief and let you further develop. But the first point is that it is our very interest to allow further larger scale of this intervention, and for this we just obtained an additional funding to develop an application. And here what it seems to us very important is not to just develop an app, but also we really appreciate in this project the very crucial aspect of the group and social interaction. And we have 100% person who stay in the study at the end of the study, which is extremely rare, and which is due to several factors, of course, but one of them, and maybe the main one, is this social group that has been created and that really helped them to stay motivated and to continue coming and to appreciate this intervention. So I think that instead of just developing an app, we will try to extract the core and very important aspects of this intervention and imagine to include it in an app, but keeping those social interactions, etc. So this is only part of the answer. I would like that maybe, Antoine, you continue, because I know you have a lot to say for that. And
well, I think there was maybe two aspects. I understood two questions, Michael. One was almost you asked a question about the dose in a way, right? About what was why people who could be committed to 18 months. And so I think the way we developed the design this study is we have two doses. One dose is 8 weeks of meditation, and another dose is 18 months. And I think it corresponds to the 8 weeks is really focused on very specific process, simple process, which is we really target on anxiety and so we really give basic techniques for a person to cope with ruminative thinking and anxiety. But with a long 18 months, we can then go much more in depth and really try to target lifestyle changes. So our vision is that there are probably different needs in the population and different motivation, and we try to adapt this intervention based on the motivation. But our vision is, as Gael said, that ultimately we want to be able to develop a program that could really target lifestyle changes, so really long-lasting intervention. And we think that, as Gael said, that the key element is to some form of in-person contact with a really trained teacher, because we had some actually very, very talented teachers, and that's really very, that's one of the difficulties of this task, is that we don't know how much is teacher specific, So we will see in the future, but we want to at least it will show that it's feasible, and then we need to find a way to scale up by keeping what we think are the core ingredient, which is, as Gael said, like the social groups, the in-person meeting, and the kind of the community feelings. So we need to invent a kind of a hybrid program, probably with the in-person meeting, maybe an apps and maybe webinars, to be able to scale up while keeping this human quality.
Okay, yeah, makes a lot of sense. Great.
And one interesting thing to notice is that we did not ask participants we did not give any instruction after the 18 months, but spontaneously 2 out of the 3 waves start to do naturally a group of meditations when they meet regularly, and I think that's really a testimony to how these programs are meaningful for them.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, and you know, the online tools are really you know, offering new ways of engage people. So I think that's a great way. Okay, last chance. So if anybody would like to ask a question, please go ahead now.
Yeah, maybe I would just add something. Because you say that maybe some people would feel that it's a bit a lot to be involved in, and I think it should be seen not really like an exercise to do each day, but something like making sports. Like, you would not think that if you have to practice sports twice a week or every day, maybe if you feel good when you do that, it's really an effort and it's too much to ask. It depends from people. For some people, it's just like the way they want what they want to do and what makes them feel good. So I think that it's a bit as well the same for, I think, meditation. It's not necessarily an effort to do that every day at a constraint to improve your health. It's really something that could be like that is expected to be a style of life or a lifestyle. Yeah.
Okay, Michael. Actually, I have a question for you on the group, because with Gael, we're finishing a little manuscript describing this model. And so, do you have any constructive or feedback, or even without the gloves, just to talk about what is missing, what is not convincing, could be improved about in this type of framework? What do you think could be strengthened in this type of yeah?
Well, does anybody have any suggestions? Please go ahead.
You can also make them offline if needed. We would very much appreciate feedback on the model. As Antoine said, it's still ongoing, and we had a lot of thoughts on that, and we would really appreciate having feedback or constructive comments about what could be improved, what isn't clear, so don't hesitate, please.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Okay, well then, thank you very much, and yeah, that was a great session, and good. So hopefully everyone is joining next time again. We will have Rachel Buckley with us. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting.
Bye. Thanks a lot.
Bye.